welcome to the Grueling Truth NASCAR Show. I'm your host or co-host Joe Spillman, along with I was going to say legendary, but last week you didn't like that. The always great Steve Risley. The Grueling Truth NASCAR Show is brought to you by Betting.net. Betting.net is the best bet for finding a sports book or casino that's right for you. Well, how was that one, Steve? Was that a better opening? I butchered that one too.
I know this is an entirely different crowd, but this is my second show of the day. My first one was the Indiana basketball show we did this morning after IU came back from a 17-point deficit to beat Michigan and move forward in the Big Ten tournament. And our esteemed boss, Mike Goodpaster, and I did a show. And the course of the game was like this. The first 28 minutes were about as lethargic as could possibly be. And then the last 12 minutes, Indiana just found themselves and kicked into high gear. The intensity and the energy level went through the roof. And in the last 12 minutes, they overcame a 17-point deficit in the last 12 minutes
to
win the game.
First half.
You sound like the first 28 minutes of the IU
come
Michigan
on,
basketball
Steve.
game. That was as about lethargic of an entry into a show. Welcome, NASCAR fans, to another exciting week of the NASCAR Show, brought to you by the Grueling Truth and Betting.now, our fine sponsor. And we're excited to talk to you this week about another exciting race on a third separate track in NASCAR this week as we come off Las Vegas, one of the fastest half-mile tracks on the circuit, with some surprise outcomes, some telltale stories, and see what's going on. We look forward to the next half hour of joining you and talking with you and your feedback and input as to what we found and what your opinion is of how NASCAR is shaping up in the 2022 season. Steve, would that be a little bit better?
That was excellent, Steve. You're opening up the show for now.
No, I'm not. No,
that was great.
I'm trying to teach you.
I thought that was amazing. I don't know why we would change that.
Well, that's it. But anyway, okay, move on.
Steve, we got some.
I got feedback from Goodpaster. Here we go. Betting.net, not now.
Did I say betting.net?
I said betting.net, didn't I?
No, you said betting.now.
Oh, did I? Okay, it's betting.net. My apologies. And we can't forget Caesar Sportsbook.
Yeah. Which there's a link
where you go to place your bet. Where Mike Goodpaster took a chance today and went to Caesar's Sportsbook and bet on Indiana to come back and win that game. And Mike is now at Walmart shopping and getting his wife Christmas presents because he won money today.
It's
a good thing. And he got the idea to do that from
Steve. It's March.
Betting.net. Hey, Mike spends money when he has it in his pocket. If you know Goodpaster, okay?
God.
All right, let's move on to
NASCAR. So today, Steve, we're gonna go over our picks here in just a minute from last week.
Okay. None of us did too good.
No, we didn't. And we're gonna recap Vegas a little bit. I'm gonna get your take on that, and then we're gonna talk about next week's race at Phoenix. And then I'm gonna hear your picks for this weekend's race. And
wait, I have to write something down.
Your expert.
Net, not now. Okay.
You got that?
I got that.
Are you using college ruled or are you using the wide ruled paper? Do you got like a?
I got college ruled, baby. I got a lot of crap to write down.
All right.
Let's go.
So this was Saturday was our first show. We picked 5 drivers. Neither one of us did real well. Steve, you picked Larson, Logano, Elliott, Harvick, and Hamlin. And if you remember, you get 2 points for a top 5 finish and 5 points for a win. You have one driver in the top 5 with Larson, so you got 2 points. Great job.
All right.
My picks were Larson, Logano, Keselowski, Harvick, and Hamlin. So I did a great job as well and only got 2 points. So as of right now, Steve, we're tied for the season.
Cream of the crap, aren't we?
Well, that's right. We're going to talk about that race a little bit. I'm going to get your expert opinion on that race. but I have some takeaways when you get done kind of giving me your take that I want to throw in there. But did you see Kyle Busch after the race when he was talking about spinning out and the parts for the car? Did you hear what he said?
I don't recall it verbatim, but yeah,
he said he bought it.
He's just an unhappy man. For somebody that has as good looking a wife as he does and as good a driver as his kid is turning out to be, along with Harvick's kid, that guy's got to learn to be happier. He's got like 50 some odd wins to his credit in the Cup Series alone, and he needs to be a little bit more happy.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he said something to the effect of all the parts are bought at Walmart. They're all the same.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I did hear that. Yeah, I did hear that. Yeah, it's well, good pastors probably they're buying them right now.
Right,
build his own NASCAR.
For all we know, my good pastor doesn't ever talk about NASCAR with us, but he's at Walmart supporting it.
Yeah, there you go.
That's right.
In terms of, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, let's get your. I want to hear your expert take on Las Vegas this past week.
All right. I thought this. There was the car. The star of the season so far to me is still the next gen car. Simply because nobody can figure it out yet. They haven't had the privilege yet of running on the same type of track twice yet. So the notes that they're taking for each race are just being filed away for future races down the road. Every track they're going to, they went to a super speedway at Daytona, a 2-mile track in Fontana, down to a mile and a half, a high banked mile and a half in Vegas. And now they're going to a relatively flat mile track in Phoenix. So they're not getting a lot of opportunity to dial these cars in. And with NASCAR only giving them like a 15 to 30 minute session to practice and get these cars dialed in, it's really not enough time for it being a brand new car. It's one thing if you've got a car that you've run for 4 or 5 years and you've got books full of notes on each track and the performance of these cars with each one time they get nuances. But this is a brand new car on these tracks. I mean, you got different tread widths. You got different parts on the car. They're struggling to get parts. The parts maybe, as Kyle was alluding to, aren't as reliable as they should be yet. And that'll all dial in over a course of time. But overall, go ahead.
I want to hit on, you brought up, and I don't want to forget this point. You brought up their practice format, and I understand that there are several drivers that are not real happy with the practice format as it stands, because I think they get 2 15-minute sessions right now.
Yeah, wasn't there talk they were going to combine that to 1 30-minute session?
Right,
they
right.
like that better. Yeah,
I think that they're talking to the teams and the drivers to see what they like better, because those 2 15-minute sessions really aren't giving them enough time to get their car dialed in and get the fastest laps before qualifying.
Right.
So, that's one thing that I've seen that's been kind of the chatter in NASCAR this week is I think this week in Phoenix, they're still going to do the 2 15-minute sessions, but I think that could possibly change.
What is the qualifying format for Phoenix this weekend? Because I searched for it on Fox Sportsnet and it's not on, but I think that could be primarily just because of all the college basketball tournaments going on.
So give me a second.
So NASCAR's getting preempted on its practice schedule and qualifying schedule.
So from they get 2 15-minute sessions again.
Okay.
They will practice at 1:30 on Saturday, and then they will practice again at 2:15 on Saturday, and then they will go into qualifying shortly after that.
Yeah, and
so
I believe that to be in the heart of Saturday being in the heart of the Big East and other conferences, basketball tournaments. I could not find it on Fox Sports Net, but I did not know the times really to even look for. So is it giving a listing if they're covered on TV or not?
Yeah, the qualifying.
Is it on
or
Sportsnet
practice
too?
Practice will be at 1:30. Qualifying's at 2:15. I'm sorry. Practice will be on Fox Sports Net or Fox Sports 1, and qualifying will be on Fox Sports 1.
Okay, all right.
So
I know there was some Xfinity stuff tied in that too as well.
yeah.
So
and then the Xfinity race will be at 4:30.
There you go. Yeah.
So.
All right. So so go ahead. And so, but we know that I think the teams have requested just 1 30-minute session, so they could put on a couple qualifying runs, and then get into a green flag run. Try and do a long haul run and things like that to try and get the car, see what changes they needed to make to the car overall.
Right.
So I know that because they weren't getting a lot of time, it seemed to me in Las Vegas they were having a lot of tire wear on the right rear tire. They were pulling the right rear tires off, and they were corded pretty bad every time they came around. So
I think that's a good point too, Steve. That tire pressure has come into play a lot with the new next gen cars.
Yes, a lot more. It's the easiest way to alter a car. Its performance ability is just alter the tire pressure. Yeah.
And I think last week or Sunday at Las Vegas, I think the whole first half of the first stage went green. I think there was 33 laps into that race before there was a caution. And I was kind of sitting there watching the race going, I think these guys might have it figured out. And then right after that, I think it might have been, for some reason, I want to say Cole Custer spun right after that on like lap 34 or 39. And they kind of attributed that to because he had just come off out of pit row from the caution on lap 33. It was a couple laps after that. And they had set that car up with low tire pressure. And I think he came around turn 3 and just lost the car. And I think that with these cars, it's really becoming not only is it highlighting the driver's ability to handle these cars, but I think it's also highlighting crew chiefs and pit crew's ability to kind of make adjustments in the race with the cars. So
yeah, well, and my understanding is too, Joe, is that there are not a lot of adjustments they can really even make to these cars at this point in time. There's some track bar adjustments. I guess you can still put some wedge in it, take some wedge out. But really, truly, a lot of the ability they had to adjust is basically tire pressure and a little bit of track bar. And that's really about all you can really do. This car was designed to be built to be pulled out of the hauler, put it on the track and race it on any track that we have. I mean, that was part of the alleged cost savings for all the teams, was to build one car, make it more durable so it doesn't fall apart on you the first time you scrape a wall, and go from there. And so in that part, I think it's paying off. But like I said, I think you give these guys one go around with this car, and they're going to come back to Phoenix the second half of the season, in Las Vegas the second half of the season, and the tracks that they go back to. And they're going to have a lot of good notes, and by then they're going to know how to tweak and dial in these cars. So
I agree with that.
It's just a growing pain session that everybody in NASCAR is going through. And truthfully, I really like the fact that it's putting the success of the race back in the hands of the drivers and not necessarily in the hands of the equipment. Because too many times in the previous years, if you had a good car, you had it set up right, your engineers and your track strategists were sitting there and making all the decisions. Drivers basically had to just go make sure they kept their foot to the floor and could shift gears properly and not miss a shift.
Right. And with the cars, with the previous cars, I mean, those cars, watching
drove
those
themselves.
Yeah, they drove themselves. I mean, I've never driven one, but that's my take on it.
Yeah.
But and I think you bring up a good point with that is it is highlighting drivers' ability, and the cars are standard. And I think we're starting to see, I kind of had this idea or thought that these cars were going to help some of the smaller teams compete. And
I don't see that.
Well, Trackhouse Racing, what Ross Chastain finish this week? Like third?
Yeah, but Trackhouse Racing is really Ganassi Racing.
They got two. How many drivers they got? Two or just?
Yeah, they got two. Chastain and who's driving the one car and the 42 car? Who's driving the 42?
I'm not sure off the top of my head who his teammate is.
Mini Christmas. Oh, keep talking. I'll look it up.
Well,
that's how good we are.
That's right. We know what we're doing here. Anyway, I mean, it's irrelevant. My take on that is, I mean, they're not a Hendricks Motorsport type team. They're not a JGR type team. I think they are a smaller team, and I think that these cars are highlighting at least the driving ability of the drivers. Ty
Dillon and Ross Chastain.
Okay.
Both of them are outside the 16 right now, top 16.
Right. And what Chastain finished, though? I think he finished third this past week.
Yeah.
So, and I think he won a stage. And I think as the season goes on, and we talked on Saturday in our last show about it was the second race and 19 different drivers had top 10 finish. Well, we're another race into it. Now 25 different drivers have a top 10 finish. And if I'm not mistaken, I think they were 6 or 7 races into the season last year before you had that many different drivers with the top 10 finish. So yeah. I think
here's a bit of trivia question for you. There's only one driver with 3 top 10s. Do you know who it is?
This year? It's got to be.
Yeah.
Got to be Kyle Larson, right?
Nope.
No. What am I talking about? Who is it?
Eric Amarola.
Oh.
Is the only driver for Stewart-Haas Racing. He's the only driver with 3 top 10s. There are about 13 drivers who have 2 top 10s, including Larson and Elliott, and I think 3 of the 4 Hendricks cars maybe have it. There's like 13 drivers that have 2 top 10s so far in the first 3 races.
Well, Kyle Larson's finished in the top 5 every race, hasn't he?
No, I think was it Daytona he scrubbed out?
I don't.
I thought he got caught up.
I think he finished in the top 5. I think I was right when I said Kyle Larson.
Nope, I don't think you are.
I got to look it up now, Steve.
All right, look it up. Anyway, Las Vegas, I thought was a good race from a perspective of auto racing. I don't know how fun it was really to watch the race. I didn't think there was a lot of passing going on for position, important positions a lot. I thought the lead cars got up front. But I think it's just a product, and I think
you're right.
Of figuring out the cars. Am I right again?
Yeah, you're right again.
He scrubbed out in Daytona, didn't he?
Yes, he didn't finish.
Yeah, he got caught up in one of the wrecks. So, hey, Joe, don't ever doubt me.
I'm sorry. That's my bad.
When I tell you something, it's most likely to be true.
Can I go back to calling you the legendary Steve Risley?
No, not at all.
Okay. All right.
But I have kind of a burr at my butt with the 1.5 miles anyway. I'm kind of tired of the 1.5 miles and think they need to cut those down and throw in some more road courses and some more short tracks.
So there are 32 tracks that they go to, right? 32 separate tracks.
Yeah.
I think 9 of them are 1.5 miles, and I think out of those 9, they go to 7 of those 1.5 mile tracks twice.
Yeah, so it's 14 races plus 2 more. 16, half the races are at 1.5 mile tracks, right, basically.
And I think what you see, and I know the 1.5 miles, and I always call them cookie cutter tracks. I think that's NASCAR's bread and butter. I don't really know the idea or the technical reasons of the 1.5 mile track. You might, but I think we get in a groove where that we just basically watch the same race over and over and over for half the season. All those tracks are banked relatively the same. All the racing looks relatively the same. When they go to places like Fontana or Daytona or Las Vegas, or not Las Vegas, excuse me, Phoenix, we get to see a different style racing, or the road courses or short tracks with Bristol. I think we see so many mile-and-a-half tracks that I think sometimes the fans just get worn out on the mile-and-a-halves. What do you think?
I agree, and I'm a fan, so I'm one of those people that does get burned out on it. And I think the mile-and-a-half tracks tend to be a little bit more of a parade for the most part. I don't like the fact when your cars are spread out by 3 or 4 seconds, and you've got an 8th place driver, like say Chase Elliott in 8th place, and he's 13, 14, 15 seconds off the lead. And you look down and goes, Elliott 14 seconds back. Well, he's only in 8th place. How can he be 14 seconds back? And then before you know it, you start lapping cars, and you end up with 15 cars on the lead lap, simply because the track's long enough that the leaders can run in clean air and get the best air and the best aero packages, and then they can make hay catching the tail end of the lap cars, the lead lap cars, and they get by them and they start passing them, and then, like I said, you end up with just a small number of cars on the lead lap,
right?
Which I don't like. I like it better when you go to a short track, or you go to a super speedway, where if there's no big wreck yet, you're likely to have starting 40 cars, you're likely to have 39 cars, 38 cars on the lead lap until the big one happens.
Right.
That makes it more fun.
Yeah, I got in a highly debated discussion with a coworker at work today, as a matter of fact, and I think his lack of knowledge.
Was that about Miranda rights?
No. It wasn't about Miranda. It was about NASCAR. We were talking a little NASCAR. And his take on NASCAR was NASCAR has totally ruined NASCAR because they've made all the cars the same and there's no competition. And NASCAR should be, we should go back to 1974 where Richard Petty is winning races by 7 laps, because the teams that have the money and the manufacturers that can make the cars should be winning the races, and we should take the competition out of NASCAR. NASCAR's totally ruined racing because they have taken that out of it. What's your take on that?
My answer to that is?
I'd like to hear it. That's why I told you.
Tell your friend to go watch Formula One. If that's what he wants. Mercedes and Red Bull win everything, and everybody else is along for the ride.
That was kind of my answer.
I've watched. If you want money to dominate auto racing and money, I understand, but Red Bull and Mercedes and even Ferrari, but Ferrari can't get their heads out of their butts and find engineers to keep up with Mercedes and Red Bull right now. You want to spend money, you can buy your way into victory lane, and that's what happens pretty much in F1. The greatest part about an F1 race is the start of the race and diving into the first turn and seeing who doesn't kill each other or trash, $3 million race car.
Yep.
So other than that, if that's what he wants to see, go ahead. The fact that all the equipment's the same, I think, puts the test back on the drivers. It says, okay, your mechanics have a limited capacity to alter these cars and to do things with them. We give you a very narrow window of what you can do to separate your car out a bit, and we're just going to leave it in the hands of the driver who's sitting in that seat and let him drive by his rear end and let him be fearful or non-fearful and get after people. Richard Petty's record of 200 wins is kind of a joke to me, because in those days he was pretty much the only factory car out there, the only car really being sponsored. Pearson's car may have been sponsored some by Motorcraft and Ford, but nobody had the funding that Petty had with Plymouth and Dodge.
He was winning races by 7 laps.
Well, and you have to remember, back in the day that Petty was getting 200 wins, they raced 3 or 4 times a week.
Right.
They would leave Talladega on Sunday and race their way back to North Carolina, stopping in, somewhere on Tuesday, somewhere on Wednesday, and another race on Friday night, and then Sunday they'd go back to one of their big, premier tracks. So Petty chalks up 4 wins in 1 week, where now you've only got 36 races a year now, I think it is. And, so his record of 200 wins is not likely to ever be touched again.
Right. No, it won't. Absolutely not. The
fact that Gordon got to, 83 wins, I think. Is he second or third? Is Pearson?
Is he?
Pearson's second at 105, I believe.
Right.
And Gordon's third. The modern era, right. Gordon's the all-time leader in the modern era.
I think Earnhart had 72.
72 or 73. 72,
yeah.
And somewhere in that vicinity. So, but that's okay. But no, I appreciate that part of it and going down the road with that. But, tell your partner that, go watch F1 Sunday mornings at 4:00.
I agree. Now, so we've wasted a lot of time talking about that. Let's get into the nuts and bolts of, and we kind of talked about it a little bit.
Well, we're going to go over the results of Las Vegas. Bowman wins.
Yeah, that's what I was getting into.
All right, Bowman gets a win. Beats out Larson, outruns Larson to the checkered flag.
Right. Well, he did, but do you know what? They were in position. And Kyle Busch had that. He had that race won, I think, or at least was in position to win that race. And and that final caution came out, and his team decided to take 4 tires.
Yeah, I think when all the other guys took 2.
All the other guys took 2, so they were in position, got out, the gamble paid off. They ended up winning the race, and I think that's why. I think that's why Kyle Busch was a little upset after that race. I could be wrong.
Well, okay. I didn't know Walmart sold brains and intelligence.
They don't.
Okay, because that was just a good call by the crew chief to slap 2 tires on, to get your butt back out on the track and get track positions a little more important on these last 8 laps, or this last shootout. I think it came down to a shootout.
It went to overtime.
Yeah, so why waste your time putting 4 tires on if you got to come? Elliott did that and ended up finishing 9th.
Right.
He was up there in 4th or 5th, and he took 4 tires, and it cost him 4 positions. You can't make it up in 2 laps.
Yeah, I had that.
Give him 10 laps, and he can make it up, but that's not going to happen. So, but you got Bowman first, Larson second, Chastain, one of your sleeper teams with Trackhouse.
Kyle Busch.
The third Hendrick car finishes 5th. So you got 3 of the top 5 cars are the Chevrolets and the Hendrick cars. Almirola, his 3rd top 10.
Right.
In 3 races of the season. Maybe the guy shouldn't retire. Tyler Reddick, another small team, basically.
Yep.
Coming in 7th. Truex, a little bit of a rebound for Martin. He hadn't had a great start. He's down in the standings right now. Elliott, with 4 tires, finishes 9th, and Christopher Bell 10. So there's your top 10. You got all 4 Hendrick cars in the top 10.
Yep.
Chevrolets had a good showing in this race, definitely. With Busch and Truex. Toyota's came to life to some degree.
Well, I think Hendrick Motorsports just has it figured out, and I think they got 2 of the best drivers in NASCAR right now.
Well, I'm gonna tell you right now, I think and who are the 2 best drivers?
Larson and Elliott.
All right, I was gonna say, if you said Bowman, I was gonna go right to the camera and smack you. I think this is really shaping up to what you talk about. I think talent's coming through, and I don't know that Hendrick has cars figured out anymore. Obviously they do, but I think it's driver skills right now that are out there. You got a lot of these guys that are starting to age a little bit, like, Kyle Busch. He's been around for 14, 15 years now racing.
Yeah.
16. Keselowski's been around a long time. Truex has been around.
Although I think
some of these guys are starting to give Amarola's in his 15th and final season.
Yeah, I think Keselowski, I think you mentioned this last week, but I think he's more concerned right now with being a team owner than he is with driving. I think that's
Team MJ23 is driving a Toyota because it's Denny Hamlin's team, and Denny Hamlin drives for Toyota, Sefton. I do not think that they would look too kindly if Denny Hamlin was owning a team that was driving Chevrolets while he was driving for Team Toyota. So, Sefton, our good friend Sefton from Jamaica, asked what team is MJ23 driving. They're driving Toyota cars.
Yep. And I think at Sefton, that's 23XI, I believe.
Yeah, 23XI. Of
course, the official
XI
race.
11,
right.
Meaning the number of Denny Hamlin's car.
Right.
Just for all the people out there, the good pastors of the world who haven't quite figured that out yet.
What? You got any final takeaways on Las Vegas before we move?
No, really.
Phoenix.
I like the durability of the car. I think the problem they're having, from what I gleaned from Larry McReynolds and things like that, they're having some trouble with the tie bars, the tie rods under the carriage of the cars. Most of the damage from hitting the walls not coming to the cosmetics of the car, which would be damaging aero a lot. You got to hit a wall or hit somebody else pretty hard to tear up the aero of these cars. But what they haven't seemed to gotten down yet is strengthening and fortifying and protecting the underbelly of these cars. And that may have been some of what Kyle Busch was alluding to in terms of it being a problem with parts breaking and them buying parts at Kmart, just not being as durable as could be.
Yeah.
But I think, like I said, that'll all rectify itself.
I agree.
Over a short period of time. So all in all, I think these cars, when they get them figured out, get them down, it's going to make the racing a lot more fun. It's going to be very much fun as we get into Phoenix now, and we'll start talking about it. Well, let's just jump into Phoenix.
Well, before we do, Steve, I want to remind everybody to check out betting.net. Betting.net is your best bet for finding a casino or sports book that's right for you.
And you should go now to betting.net.
You should.
Well, go to betting.now. Go to betting.net and do it now.
I would tell everybody to go to Caesar's Sportsbook after we give you our top 5
Well, that's
picks.
where you make your bet.
Yeah. Let's get to the top 5 picks before you go there.
Wait, we're not. That's the last
thing
we do.
No, we're going to talk. Yeah, we're going to. I know.
That's the last thing we do in the show.
I didn't say we were doing it now, Steve.
All right.
So give me your take on Phoenix. I know you've mentioned it a couple times.
I'm excited. It's Phoenix races like a short track because it's a relatively flat track. You can't get incredibly high speeds. You get up around 110, 120, I think, on the track, right around there.
Yeah.
Which, for these cars is relatively slow compared to what they're used to running at, like at a Vegas or a Fontana or a Daytona. So they're going to slow the cars down, which means they're going to bunch up a lot. And I think the durability of these cars on the fenders is going to make for a lot more fun racing because I think teams will be less afraid to rubbing and racing.
Yeah.
They'll be a little more willing to bump. We've already seen these bumpers and these grills in the front are pretty durable. I mean, there were some pretty good hits, even at Vegas. They were hitting people pretty hard on these runs that they're getting with this car. And I think you'll see a lot more of that in Phoenix. I think it's a track that is well designed for a crafty veteran to get his hands on and race. So you got some certain people I know that I've put in my top 5 that I might not otherwise, but I just think because they know the track, know the layout, and have raced well on this track many times before, I think you're going to see a lot of that. And the people that know how to drive, I think this is really what I would say the first time the driver is going to be the real star of this race, maybe over the car. If you get what my drift. And I just think that, yeah, I think that the drivers that know how to bump, how to push people out of the way, and ride tails and things like that are the ones that are going to make this race real fun. And I'm very much looking forward to Phoenix.
And so am I. We've watched 3 races this year, and I think all 3 races. I think at the end of the race, the last 10 laps, not to be cliche about it, but I'm sitting on the edge of my recliner, you just watching the race. I mean, the racing this year, out of the first 3 races, I think NASCAR has really done a good job with this car and bringing competitiveness back to NASCAR. And I agree with you as far as Phoenix. And one thing that I want to bring up is typically if you watch a race at Phoenix, with it being a low bank, when they come out of that turn 4, a lot of those drivers, and even coming out of turn 2, a lot of those drivers will slam down into the apron to try to cut cut that dog leg off of the turn. And
Elliott's a master at that.
Right. And so my question is, and we saw a little bit of this at Fontana, and we saw them because Fontana's a relatively low bank track too. My question there, or what I'm going to look for in qualifying and practice, is if those cars are able to do that, or if they're going to be bouncing that rear diffuser off the track and the little bit of bank that they have and spinning those cars out in those banks.
Well, I would think, Joe, they'd be less likely to have a lot of that problem with this being such a flat track. I'd be more concerned about that if I'm coming off that flat area below the white line and coming up onto a banking and a high banking, and you're making that sudden lurch all of a sudden from, playing level on the track to all of a sudden you're at a 13 to 20 degree angle, and half the car still wants to be on the flat track while you're coming up, and half of it's on that banking. So I would think that would be more of a concern as you're moving off that flat up to the banking. I think this being such a flat track, I think it's going to be minimal, which I think is going to make the racing a lot more fun. They're a lot less likely to scrub off speed when they make that jump off the flat part and come up onto the track surface above the white line. That's my opinion.
You're probably right. It's just, I know. So Phoenix does have a little bit of bank to it. It's not much.
It's considered a short flat track, though. I think in the annals of it's considered it races like a flat track.
Right. So I mean, that's just something I'm going to be looking for. You're probably right. I'm probably way off base on there. I just I think back as the only track.
Probably.
You're probably right, Steve.
Okay.
But I just think back to Fontana, which is the closest track that we have with these new cars to kind of judge what this track is going to be like. And we saw a little bit of that. So, that's just something that I'm going to look for. I don't think that it'll come into play. And I think that the drivers are figured out relatively quickly. But I also look for, like we've had the last several races, is we're going to see 2 packs the whole race, and there's going to be 1 pack that finds the fastest line on the racetrack, and that's going to be the pack that everybody stays with. So
yeah, I think you'll see more pack racing on this track than you have yet this year. I think just because the speeds are going to be down, and most cars are going to be able to get to that speed and stay together, and the durability of these cars, I think it's going to allow people to be a little bit more aggressive driving and getting after it more. So pit stall selection, again, is really important because that makes qualifying really important on these races, because you definitely want to be up with a good pit selection to get yourself in and out of the pits quickest and not get caught up and bogged down, because it's a short 1 mile track and you have pit lanes on both sides.
Yeah.
Don't you on this track?
Yes.
So, you've got to go through a lot of traffic coming in or getting out of the pits one way or another. So all you want really is the fastest way to get back on a track on this type of a racetrack, more so than anything else. Much more important than, say, at a Daytona or a Talladega.
Right. No, yeah, I agree with that. I'm just really excited to see another race. I'm really excited to see what Phoenix is going to bring this week. We haven't seen a track like this. Kind of the intermediate, not a mile and a half, not a short track. So,
well, Joe, you're supposed to have an opinion, not just be excited. That's why we do a show.
Well,
you have an opinion.
You gave your opinion, and my opinion.
Well, give your opinion. Being excited is not an opinion. Hope is not an option.
Well, I gave you my opinion, and I gave you something I was going to look for, and you were like, "Nah, that's not going to happen." So,
well, who am I?
You're Steve Risley. So,
I'm right up there with Jamie McMurray.
That's right.
And Shannon Spake.
I wouldn't tell anybody that.
And Suarez. Don't you ever watch NASCAR Daily or whatever it is? I watch it every day.
Yeah. All right.
How do you think I got so smart?
Let's hear your picks for this week, Steve. Well, I
went first last time.
You want no? Well, you got to keep going first.
Why, Mike?
So I can steal your picks.
Is that what Good Pastor told you to say?
Yeah, we've walked through this. We've talked about how you become a Pick'em Show champion, and I'm going to employ his tactics.
Oh, God. That's what the world needs, 2 rocket surgeons. Okay.
You got to stop with that.
All right. I'm choosing the perennial favorite again. Kyle Larson can drive on anything.
Yeah.
He's got a solid car, a good combination with him and his crew chief. He's part of the Hendrick camp. Those guys are communicating well with each other. I don't know how well Chase and Kyle are communicating with each other right now, but they'll get over it.
They've made up.
Yeah, as soon as Elliott wins, they'll make up even better. So we gotta let Chase win one. So I'm sure that war is going to come down here shortly. Yeah. After all 3 of the other drivers have won and qualified for the playoffs, and Chase is the only one who is not, even though he's leading the league in points. Larson, I think, is my first pick, or one of my 5 picks. Guy who's done incredibly well at this track and was a master at this track for the longest time, still might be considered as Kevin Harvick. Harvick is very strong at this track. He's raced well. He's won out of numerous races here. Does well. Elliott won a championship on this track. He knows that he dives below that white line as well as anybody. He shaves time and avoids a lot of bumping and grinding, trying to get through crowds as well. And he has the ability to glide his car back up on the track as well as anybody. So Elliott, this is a track set up for an angry Kyle Busch. So I've got Kyle Busch here because anybody knows when he's mad, he loves to bump and grind. And I think he's a little honked off at everything right now. And then a guy who is, like you said, has done well at this track and I think is due to break out of his slump, and that's Martin Truex.
I agree with that.
So my 5 picks are Larson, Harvick, Elliott, Busch, and Truex.
Okay. I think I'm looking at my drivers here. We're going to differ only on one driver again. So we got to
You keep different on Elliott with me, and I'll tell you what, I'm not going to be pretty for you.
I'm not this week, and I think you have some good picks. But before I give you my picks, I want to remind everybody to check out Caesar Sportsbook. There's a link in the description for this show. If you like our picks, head over to Caesar Sportsbook and
we'll pick any of those 5.
You might want to, but all right. So I'm going to agree with you. There's just absolutely no way you can't put Kyle Larson in a top 5.
Can't now.
Pick it at any racetrack. If we could talk about any racetrack right now, and he's going to be in the top 5. We could talk about going to watch dirt track sprint cars. He's going to be in the top 5. So yeah, right now.
Hey, a little sidebar for you. When I was listening to Mario Andretti speak on NASCAR Radio, and they did a show. Did you know that the F1 was owned by an American communications company?
I didn't.
I did not know that either, but it is. And they said there's a big push in F1 right now of the teams to put 2 more teams in, and both of those teams should be American teams. That the fact that they run 2 races in America, and that's their biggest viewing market in the world is the United States, and yet they have no American drivers racing in Formula One. So Andretti was leading a coalition of teams that thought they needed to add 2 more of the 20. They only allow 20 teams in F1, and bring 2 more teams in, and put American drivers in those cars.
Yeah. Well, you heard it here then.
2 of the names that have come up have been Colton Herta, who drives IndyCar, and Kyle Larson for a season or 2 to go over and drive F1. Although I don't think Kyle's going to leave NASCAR at this point in time.
No.
Anyway, give us your picks.
You heard it here
Good Pass
first.
was getting ready. Good Pass was getting ready to lay into us.
About what?
I don't know. Go ahead. He's typing.
All right. Well, so we got Larson. I'm also going to go with Hamlin this week. I think Hamlin's driving well. I think he's going to get a win here soon. I'm going to go with Elliott in my top 5 this week because I think he's driving well. I think Hendrick Motorsport's driving well. All their drivers are driving well. And Martin Truex Jr., he won this race, I believe, last year, Steve. So I think that you have to put him in the top 5 at this track. And then Kevin Harvick. So I agree. I think Kevin Harvick's he's due for a big weekend. He's due for a win. So, those are going to be my top 5. You have your top 5, and let's see if either one of us can score more than 2 points this week.
All right.
You got any final takeaways?
No.
All
you
right.
know, it's yeah. No. We'll have a lot more fun as we get into the season more and things start taking shape.
Right.
It's not even really worth talking about the points right now, even though your boy Hamlin's in 30th place.
Right.
But that's going to be resolved with 1 win or 2 top 10 finishes.
Yeah, I think
Hamlin's ran into some bad luck. So it's early in the year. We're figuring out the car. There's new teams out there, new forms of teams. There's just, I think, like I said, that's why I think the car is the biggest star right now.
I mean, the top 30 is within 75 points. The top 25 is within 60. So.
Right. Yeah. So it's as we get on, there'll be a lot more fun things to talk about, a lot more things to dissect. We'll be able to go back and look at performances on the first week versus the second week and things like that. And we'll continue to get a better understanding of this car. So
Agreed.
Give it time,
Agreed.
Sports fans.
So we gonna be back same time next week?
That's the goal right now. If we aren't canceled.
Yeah. Canceled. And this is, of course, subject to change because we got March Madness going on right now, and you might be doing an IU show at this time. So,
well, let's hope we're not doing it. Well, yeah, let's hope we're doing one, but let's hope it doesn't interfere with our NASCAR show.
That's right. Steve,
so wrap it up and get us out of here.
Steve, I'll see you next week. I want to remind everybody that the NASCAR show was brought to you by betting.net. Betting.net is the best place to find a casino or sports book that's right for you. Steve, I'll see you next week.
You got to be a little more excited about closing and getting into the race.
Well, I'm depressed because we're ending the show, and I like the show.
Okay, try something like, thanks for listening, racing fans. We enjoy your time. We hope to get better for you. Any comments or feedbacks that you have, please give it to us. All one of you that's probably still listening. And we look forward to another exciting week next week of the NASCAR show brought to you by betting.net. And we look forward to just an impressive season.
And Steve will be the host next week.
No, I will not.
See y'all later.